morning, this is Nicholas from Gandora Gaming, and today I bring you guys my Hakbal, the Surging Soul deck profile 2025 post me joining Commander. So, I already made an opening for the pre-con. If you don't know, my friends last week got me into Magic the Gathering, and I've been having a shit ton of fun. For the last week or two, I think I'm officially in week 2, I have been playtesting and having a grand time with a whole bunch of brand new people. And I'm not going to lie, Commander format is very welcoming. The fact that you can just go to the library and print out a whole bunch of cards and play with proxies and it's completely legal to play a tournament is absolutely insane to me. And the fact that this deck is so cool, it's so amazing, strong, right out the box, it's amazing. And I'm so happy that I've been experimenting for the last week, finding out all the best cards and best options to make this deck as strong as possible without breaking the bracket system. So let me explain this. There is a bracket system in Magic the Gathering Commander, at least. And that bracket system says, hey, you can play the strongest shit possible and be basically Yu-Gi-Oh 2.0, where you are just like accelerating energy to the point that you are just going to completely wipe your opponent in like 3 turns. Or you can play a lot slower and play a less tiered game. However, there is game changer cards that you are not prohibited to play because they're just too broken. As soon as you see them, you just win the game. And there's some really powerful cards that I chose not to play in here because of that. So this is not the strongest Hakbal, the Surging Soul that you can find. However, for a tier 2, tier 3 deck, this is what you got, and I am pretty happy about it. If you really want to, Merfolk can kind of do anything. There's a lot of turn skip cards in Merfolk. You can just completely skip your opponent if you want. I chose not to go that route. I wanted to have a fun game, and that's why I made this deck. So let's get into this. So this is Hakbal, the Surging Soul. He is a 4-mana character. He is 3/3 attack and defense. He has 2 colors and a forest and a island energy. So water and a grass. And he is a legendary creature Merfolk Scout. And he has 2 abilities. Both are busted. So first ability, at the start of the start of combat. So the start of battle phase. Basically, you may, for every Merfolk you control, including himself, explore the top card of your deck. And then based on what you find there, do another effect. So let me explain the explore mechanic. So explore is a mechanic in the game where you look at the top card of your deck, in this case a library, that's what they call their deck, and then you look at the top card. If it's a land, you add it to hand. If it's not a land, if it's any other card, you can leave it on top or send it to graveyard. Either way, you get a 1/1 counter plus onto your creature's attack. So Hakbal, the Surging Soul's whole gimmick is that you want to spam the field with really powerful Merfolk creatures and then use Hakbal to explore with every creature you control, increasing their attack and just ramping through your deck. And his second ability also helps with this. So he is a landfall leader, which means he helps you accelerate mana or land. So basically, whenever Hakbal, the Surging Soul attacks, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield, or if you don't, just draw a card. So this deck is very good at knowing what the top card of a deck is, either playing it from the top of the deck, or just placing lands and accelerating it to a fast rate to play out some really powerful monsters. It's a very fun deck, it's very explosive, it's blue-green, so this is a Cynic deck, and it has some really great cards. So let's get straight into this. So first things first, we are playing Benefic Biomancer. So originally, I actually cut this card from my pre-con. A lot of videos are telling me that this card wasn't good enough, that it was bad, and it just wasn't good enough for the actual deck. But after playing testing with this card, this is one of the best cards in the damn deck. So if you don't know, this is a 1 cost, so 1 mana, water energy, Merfolk Wizard Mutant, and it has the ability that, hey, whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are put on Benefic Biomancer, draw a card, discard a card. That is pretty amazing. So if you have him on field with your leader, every time you put a 1/1 counter on him, you are discarding a card. So you draw a card, discard a card, filling up your graveyard, and just having a grand old time. And he gets bigger every time you explore because of your leader, which is really, really strong. He also has the adaptability, which by resting a colorless and a water mana, you may adapt 1, which is a creature that has no 1/1/1. you put a 1/1 counter on it. So you can immediately put a 1/1 counter on him if you want, and he'll immediately start drawing you cards, which is really, really good. So great card, must have one on the deck, fantastic card. Next, this card I added in my deck today because this card's amazing. This is Curse Catcher. So this is a level 1 water mana merfolk wizard. You could sacrifice creature catcher, counter target an instant spell or sorcery spell unless your opponent pays an additional 1 mana. It's a 1/1. It's easy to play out, and this is basically a counter spell for the deck. And it's also just amazing. So if your opponent uses all their mana to play a board wipe, you can just sacrifice creature catcher, negate the board wipe. It is so freaking strong. Just today, I was in a match where my opponent used all their mana to play this spell card, which would have bounced back, would have destroyed all their lands to place new lands directly from the deck. It was like some land shooting deck. It was a crazy deck. Anyway, I sacrificed Creature Cutter to stop that instant, and I won. Well, I didn't win that game, but I beat him because of that. I stopped him from popping off, which gave me a turn to kill him on the next turn, which was absolutely amazing. So Creature Catcher is an amazing card, must-have play in a deck. Another new inclusion to this deck is Tide Shaper. This is another great card. It's in 1 energy, so it requires a water. Merfolk Wizard. It has the Kicker ability. So by paying an additional mana, so an additional land, you can gain an ability. That ability says when Tide Kicker enters the battlefield with a kicker, so you added a kicker, target a land becomes an island for as long as Tide Shaper is on the field. Also, Tide Shaper gets a 1/1 as long as your opponent controls an island. So, basically, you give your opponent an island by paying an extra Dawn. Congratulations. That mana now, that land they have is an island. It's water. If their deck is not water, it is useless to them. And also, it's all the effects that land might have is negated now. It's just a basic blue island, which is really, really strong. And the fact he gets a plus blood, plus what if you do that, means he's really, for 1 energy, not only giving your opponent an island, stopping them from doing their things, but he's also a 2/2, which is actually insane. And don't forget, when your leader's on field, you get to explore with every merfolk. So it's just icing on the top. For our final merfolk that we added to the deck when it comes to the 1 cost, we have Sentinel Scout. This is a great merfolk. It is a green, so it requires 1 green energy. It's a merfolk scout, 1/1. When Sentinel Scout enters the battlefield, it explores. So when you play it, it immediately explores, which means on the turn you play it, it'll immediately explore the top card of your deck. If it's a land, add it to hand. If not, gain a 1/1, trash it or not. So it immediately is a +1 onto itself, looking at your top cards and going from there. So that is it for our 1 cost characters. Let's talk about our 2 cost characters. So this is Wild Growth Walker. Now, Wild Growth Walker is not a merfolk. He doesn't become a merfolk. He's just his own little thing. He's an element. He requires a colorless and a grass mana. He's a 1/3 in defense. And he has the ability, whenever a creature you control explores, put a 1/1 counter on Wild Growth and gain 3 life. Well, if you haven't noticed, every merfolk creature we control when our leader's on field explores at least once a turn. So this guy gets really freaking big out of nowhere and also heals you while he's doing it. So not only are you gaining 3 life, but he is getting bigger every time one of your creatures explores, which is absolutely amazing and just a great card for the deck. This is like a really good boss monster that can come out of nowhere. Next, we have Metallic Mimic. Now, Metallic Mimic is an okay card. I'm not going to lie to you, this came in a pre-con. I might cut it, but it's interesting. So basically, Metallic Mentor is a shapeshifter. And when it enters the battlefield, it becomes a type you control. So you just call Merfolk. Congratulations, it's a Merfolk now. Now, each other Merfolk creature you control of the chosen type that enters the battlefield gains a 1/1 counter on it. So basically, any creature you play after him becomes a Merfolk. That is a Merfolk, gets a 1/1 counter on it, which is really nice. Overall, good card, but I might cut it. Another card I might cut is Thieving the Skydiver. The reason why I haven't cut Thieving the Skydiver is because I had some of the coolest plays with this card, which is absolutely amazing. So I'm going to explain it. This is another Merfolk Rogue. It's flying, so only monsters with reach or with flying can actually stop her. So she's basically unblockable. She's a 2/1, a colorless energy, and a water energy. And she has the kicker ability. So if you pay additional mana, basically when she comes into play, so when she enters the battlefield, if she was kicked, you gain control of a targeted artifact with the mana value of X or less. Then the artifact that is equipped and attached to her. What does that mean? Well, that basically means she steals artifacts, which is kind of crazy and really, really good. And the really thing that's awesome about this card is that one of my first duels in the Magic Gathering ever was against a leader that was an artifact. And like turn 2, I stole his artifact leader with Thieving Skydiver, which is kind of crazy. That was just a really cool fake. And the fact that this card has flying, it can steal artifacts, it's just a really good card. It's a 2/1, so it has good stats. That's why it's still in the deck, but when it comes to like the cutting monsters, I might cut these two. Next, we have a All-Star and Hex Catcher. This card's amazing. It has Flash. So Flash is a mechanic where basically if you have the mana to play them, you can play them on your opponent's turn. This is a colorless and a water, so it's very cheap. It's a Merfolk Wizard, 1/1. Other Merfolk you control gate 1/1, so he boosts up all your guys. Also, you can sacrifice a Merfolk you control, counter target a non-creature spell unless the controller pays 1. So this is just really, really good. It's basically like a quick effect version of Curse Catcher. Curse Catcher is a quick effect, but you can play this from hand, unlike Curse Catcher, on your opponent's turn. So let's say your opponent used all their mana to like board wipe. You can go spell summon Curse Catcher, negate it, which is kind of crazy and just an overall fantastic card. And because you're playing this monster on your opponent's turn, it means that it won't have summoning sickness when your turn comes around, so it can attack on the next turn, which is really, really insane. Next, we have Flood Pit Drowners. This is another great card. It also has Flash, so you can play it on your opponent's turn. It's a 1 colorless and a water, a 2/1, so its stats are a little better. And basically, it has Flash and Vigilance. It has the ability that when pit, the Drowner enters the field, tap target a creature your opponent controls and put a stun counter on it. So he freezes a monster. He turns a monster sideways and then freezes it for a turn, which is really powerful. And then he has the other ability that if you use 2 mana, you can shuffle him back into the deck and then shuffle back a monster your opponent controls with a stun counter on it, which is actually really amazing. This is another great removal card and just another fantastic card for the deck. Absolutely chef's kiss. Next, we're playing Merfolk Trigger. This is our final Flash character for a 2 cost. This card is amazing. It's another Flash. When Merfolk Trigger enters the battlefield, you can tap target creature and opponent controls. It loses all abilities until the end of the turn. So that is just absolutely amazing. It's a 2/2, 2 water, so it's like the most least generic of the bunch. However, it just like negates a monster on field for the turn. It can't attack. Its effects are negated. It's just really, really strong. And this is a really powerful effect on a monster. Next, we have Lord of Atlantis. This is another amazing card. Other Merfolk you control get +1/+1 and have Island Walk. So what is Island Walk? Well, it basically says if your opponent controls an island land, which is a blue land, hey, congratulations, all your Merfolk can't be blocked, which is crazy. So that's why it matters to give your opponent a island or turn their monsters into turn their lands into islands, because his deck has Island Walk while he's on field, which is pretty amazing. Another card that has Island Walk is Master of the Pearl Trident. Other Merfolk creatures you control get a 1/1, and they have Island Walk as well. They're basically just 2 of the same card, which is really amazing. And then finally, for our last monster for 2 costs, we are playing the Current Conductor herself. She is another boss monster for the deck. She's absolutely insane. She is a 2/3 legendary Merfolk, so she could be a leader if you want. Requires a grass and a water. Whenever a creature you control explores a land card, you may put that land card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. So she accelerates lands on a ridiculous scale. And then also she has the ability, whenever a creature you control explores a non-land card, put a 1/1 counter on her. as well. So you can explore with any of these guys, and then she'll get a 1/1 counter, which is absolutely amazing. It just gets really big really quickly. And that is just a beautiful thing for this deck. Now let's talk about our 3-cost characters. First things first, we have Cold-Eyed Silky. She has Island Walk, so if your opponent has a island, this card cannot be blocked. Also, she has the ability, whenever Cold-Eyed Silky deals combat damage to a player, you draw equal to that many damage. So if you do 5 damage to your opponent, congratulations, you're drawing 5 cards, which is really, really good. She's a 3-cost character, so she requires what colors, plus either a grass or a water, which is really, really good, or just water, water, grass, grass. And see how it's split right there? That means you can play either a grass energy or a water energy. She's also a 1/1, so she's a little weak. I considered cutting her, but I felt because of the Island Walk and the draw aspect, I thought she was good enough to keep. Next, we're playing the Warden of the Waters. Warden of the Waves, my apologies. This card's absolutely stupid. It's a 3-cost character. 1 colorist plus 2 water, so he's not generic. He is a legendary merfolk, so he could be a leader as well. And he has the ability that spells your opponent cast that target a merfolk you control costs 2 more mana. So they activate a spell card that would blow up a guy, and now it costs 2 more mana to do it. And if your opponent activates an ability that your opponent activates that would target a merfolk you control, it costs 2 more mana. This is just like making everything cost way more, harder to remove your field, which feels really, really good. Next, we play 1 Merfolk Sovereign. This is another card I consider cutting. Other Merfolk control could get a 1/1 counter. Also, you may rest target a Merfolk. You may rest her in order to make a Merfolk unblockable for a turn, which isn't bad. Her stats are decent. I felt like I didn't find anything that I would replace her with. She's still a merfolk. Because of your leader, she will always explore. She'll always get bigger. But I felt like the unblockable aspect wasn't good enough. But she's in here. If you find something better, let me know. But for now, she's in here. Next, we have Marrow's Reejerey. This card is amazing. So this creature is 2 colors in the water. It's a 2/2. Other merfolk creatures you control get a 1/1 counter. So just like her, she's upping up all your guys. Also, whenever you cast a merfolk spell, you may tap or untap a targeted permanent. That is an amazing effect. So you're probably wondering, what merfolk spells are we playing? Well, in Magic the Gathering, all creatures you play are considered spells. So every time you play a merfolk, you could either restand a rested card or rest a permanent. So you can restand your lands, you can restand your characters, you can rest your opponent's lands, you can rest your opponent's characters. This is a really, really powerful card for a 2/2, which is just really, really strong. Next, we have Topography Tracker. This is another card that came in the pre-con, and this card is absolutely amazing. So this is a Merfolk Wizard, requires 2 colors and a grass. She's a Merfolk Scout. She's a 2/2. When Topography Tracker enters the battlefield, you may create a map token. If it's an artifact with a 1, you can sacrifice that token, target a creature you control, and it explores. And that is just a really powerful ability. So create the token, you sacrifice the token, and you can give every one creature on the field and explore that turn. Then, if a creature you control would explore, it explores again twice. So basically, because my leader, all my merfolk explore at least 1 time. Well, this card says, well, I'm on field, you explore 2 times, which is absolutely insane. So if you hit 2 monsters on top of your deck, congratulations, you're now getting 2/2 on your card. And he gets really big really quickly, and it just helps you so good. If you're adding lands on top, you're just adding more lands. And it gets the deck going so well. Next is a card that might have to come out because it's too good. And that is Harbinger of the Sea. This card is amazing. So this card, non-basic lands are islands, which is absolutely stupid. So you turn all lands on your opponent's field and your field to islands. Generic islands, which is kind of stupid. So let's say you have a land, right? A non-basic land that has an ability. Well, congratulations. While she is on field, that is a basic island. And guess what? You're not an island deck? Well, that mana is useless to you until she leaves the field, which is really, really disgusting. I wish it shared abilities. I hate that it's like a floodgate monster, but there's not too many cards in the Merfolk archetype that turn things into islands that are like actually good cards. She's probably one of the best cards in the deck. So if you see her, you might feel a little unfair. You might want to cut her for something more fair, but she's not on the list of cards that you can't play. So she's here. She's a 1 of 100 card deck. If you see it, you see it. If you don't, you don't. Whatever. Next, we have Realm Walker. This is another creature. It's a shapeshifter, so it can become a merfolk. As long as when Realm Walker enters the battlefield, you choose a type. It becomes what you choose. So you choose merfolk. You may look at the top card of your deck at any time. You may cast creature spells of the chosen type from the top of your library. So what does that mean? It means, okay, this is my deck. I can look at it at any time. I can look at the top of my deck and say, oh, look, Singer of the Swift Rivers is on top. I can now play Singer of the Swift Rivers from my deck for free if I have the mana to do so, which is amazing. That's what Realm Walker does, which is absolutely incredible and absolutely stupid, which is really, really good. Now, let's talk about Singer of the Swift Rivers, because she's insane, too. She's another flash character, so you can play it on your opponent's turn if you have the mana available. Requires a colorless plus a grass and a water. When she enters the battlefield, you may put a shield counter on a targeted creature you control. If that creature will be dealt damage or destroy, remove the shield counter from it instead. So you can just protect your creature and just be safe, which is absolutely stupid. You can protect your leader, which is really, really strong. They activate a removal on your leader. Protect your leader. Make sure your leader lives. And you're playing on your opponent's turn. Congratulations. When your turn comes around, there is no summoning sickness. It's good to go. Really, really strong. Speaking of Flash, we have Tidebinder. Tidebinder is absolutely amazing. It's another 2 energy, 2 colors, and a water. It also has Flash. And also has the ability where when this card enters the battlefield, it can counter up to 1 target activated trigger or ability. If an ability is an artifact, creature, or planeswalker, it is countered this way. That permanent loses all abilities for as long as she's on field and on the battlefield, which is insane. So let's say your opponent activates a planeswalker that's going to hurt you. Summon you, negate the planeswalker forever until she leaves the field. Really great card. If your opponent activates a removal spell, congratulations. Spell summoner, negate the removal spell. Really amazing card. One of the most crazy cards to add to the deck. Really great card. Speaking of broken cards that I found on the internet, hello, Rising Tide. This card is amazing. So on play, this card for a 2 colors and a water draws 2, trashes 2. So she just fills up your graveyard by drawing 2 and trashing 2. She filters out your hand as well, which is really, really good. She's already good enough on that with her stats and her level. She's a 3/2 attack. But that's not all. She also has the threshold attack. Whenever Kura attacks, and there are 7 or more cards in your graveyard, you may create a Scion the Deep token, a legendary 8/8 blue octopus token. So you're probably wondering, what the hell is that? Well, I'll show you, my friends. She creates a big-ass octopus token that is 8 attack, 8 defense. So far, all these monsters have been 3s, 2s, 1s. Well, this is an 8, and she just cheats it out for free anytime she attacks, meaning if she survives and she just keeps attacking, she's going to keep popping out these giant 8/8 octopus krakens that beat the shit out of your opponent, which is insane. And you think, okay, it requires 7 cards in your trash. Maybe that's hard to get to. No, because you forget, anytime you explore, and you hit a non-land card, you can just dump that card to the graveyard. So you're always constantly filling your trash. Not to mention, on her play, she draws 2, trashes 2. So she's guaranteed you at least 2 cards right off the bat. She is an insane card and one of the best new cards I've added to the deck. Absolutely amazing. Speaking of amazing cards, we also have Evolution Sage. This card is broken. It's an elf druid that came with it. It came with the precon. It has the landfall ability, which is one of the most broken abilities for a green deck. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, proliferate, which is choose any number of tokens on the field, and then give another counter to each of those kinds. So if anyone has a counter on them, increase their counters again. Really, really powerful ability. Really, really strong card. Doubles all your counters. Makes it all insane. Really powerful card. Next, we have Emperor Mihad II. This card's another legendary merfolk, so this card could be your leader if you wanted to. It has some really powerful abilities. It requires 2 water and a colorless. It has a 3/3 attack. You can always look at the top card of your library, so always look at the top card of your deck. You may cast merfolk spells from the top of your library for free. So it's basically just Realm Walker again, which is insane. And then whenever you cast a merfolk spell, you may pay an additional mana to generate a 1/1 blue merfolk token. And you're probably wondering, what would you do with a merfolk 1/1 token, right? What would you do this thing? Well, you forget this token is a merfolk, meaning if you did this on your turn before battle phase, congratulations, you have another monster on the field to explore with to boost up as well. You can boost up your tokens with Merlon, which is absolutely incredible and absolutely amazing. So this is just a better Realm Walker, which is incredible. The final 2 cards we have is Koral the West Tree. This is a non-merfolk character. However, it's so good for the deck, I had to mention it. This card is amazing. It has reach, so it can hit cards that have flying. So your opponent has a whole bunch of flying cards. This thing can block them. It is a 3/3, so it's not the greatest, but it still is pretty good. Modified creatures you control have trample, so if anybody has a modified stat boost on them, which they will by exploring, they have trample, which is piercing damage. And whenever a modified creature you control deals combat damage to a player, search your library, so search your deck for a land card, put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle your deck. So anytime you do damage to your opponent, you get to place a land onto the field for free from deck. That is insane. Doesn't matter if it comes tap. If you attacked and did 4 damage 4 different times, you're placing 4 lands from your deck onto the field. That's incredible. That's one of the best accelerators of lands I've ever seen. I'm surprised this is not on the list of ban cards. This card's amazing. And then finally, we have the Sea and Sky for our last card. If you have 2 or more merfolks on field, this card becomes indestructible. Also, all merfolks you control have 1 ward, which is amazing. If you don't know, in order to remove a creature on field, you have to get past their ward. So by giving your opponent all your creatures' ward, it makes them indestructible from board wipes at least once. Also, all merfolks, whenever she attacks, she draws you a card. So she's just insane too. Really great card for the deck, and overall, just a fantastic overall collection. Now let's talk about the 4-cost characters. We have Wonder. Now, Wonder, we are actually never playing onto the field. We never actually want to open this card in our hand. So what is Wonder? Well, he is a incarnation, which is a really interesting card, but that does not matter. He's a flying, he's 2/2. None of that matters. What matters is his ability. What is his ability? As long as Wonder is in your graveyard, all creatures you control have flying if you control an island. Congratulations. Every monster you control, regardless if they are a merfolk or not, are now all flying monsters. Meaning if your opponent is attacking you and they are attacking with flying monsters, you can block them. If your opponent has no flying monsters, you can attack directly to them. And they can't stop you because they're all flying. Which is insane. And all you have to do is mill this card off anything. Biomancer, drawing it, discarding it, that works. Anytime you explore a card, if you hit it, bump it. Bam, you go. All your monsters are flying now. Insanely good. Next, we have Herald of the Secret Streams. This card's amazing. This also came in the pre-con. It's another 4 energy character, 2/3. However, all creatures you control get a 1. All creatures with a 1/1 counter on them are unblockable. So congratulations. Not only will they be flying, but they'll also be unblockable, which is insane and really, really strong. Next, we have Seafloor Oracle. Seafloor Oracle is another great card. It's a 2/3. 2 colorless and 2 water. Whenever a merfolk you control deals damage to your opponent, draw a card. That's right. You can just draw a card off this guy, which is absolutely stupid. And one of the best things you can do in his deck is just like, oh, I hit a 1/1 counter on this. Oh, no worries. I'll just draw it, which is insane. Next, we have Deep Root Historian, which is another great card. So remember how Milad and the Realm Walker played characters from the top of your deck? Well, guess what? Deep Root Historian plays them from your graveyard for 3 colors and a green. She is a 3/3 Merfolk Druid, so she's a Merfolk, so you can do her ability to explore. But also, Merfolk and Druid cards you control in your graveyard have the Retrace ability, which means if you pay the mana cost for them, you can play them from your graveyard. However, you have to pitch a land from hand if you do, which is fine because this deck accelerates lands and adds so much lands to hand that you will have more lands that you can do with. This is one of the best cards in the deck, and overall is a fantastic monster. Speaking of fantastic monsters, we have the Utopian Speaker. Now, this is another card I considered cutting, but it's just so good that I had to keep it. So it's number 4/4. It's 2 colorless plus a grass and a water. It's another legendary Merfolk, so this could be your leader if you wanted it to. When Zendaya the Utopian Speaker enters the battlefield and you control another creature with a 1/1 counter on it, draw a card. Then she also has the adaptability for resting 6 energy. So you rest 4 colors plus a water and a grass. She is able to increase the 1/1 counters on all creatures on the field. So you just give all your guys 1/1 counter. But that doesn't matter. The part that matters is that each creature you control with a 1/1 counter gains piercing damage. They all gain trample. So every monster are flying, trampling, unblockable killing machines, which is really, really good. Overall, another great card for the deck, and just a fantastic card. Next, we have Deep Fathom Echo. This is another great card for the deck. Basically, it's another creature, Merfolk Spirit. It's a 4/4. At the beginning of combat on your turn, Deep Throat Echo explores. When you then you may have it become another creature you control until the end of the turn. So not only does this explore at the start of battle, so it explores twice because of your leader, but also it can just copy any of your creatures, which is absolutely stupid and absolutely amazing. Now, I don't think Deep Throat Echo can copy your leader. However, you know what can? This card, Thousand Faces over here, ignores the legendary rule. So this card is a 3/1, 3 colors and a water, legendary creature human. When this card enters the battlefield, you may copy another creature you control except himself, and the legendary rule does not apply to him. So while this can copy everything but your leader, this can copy anything, including your leader. So you'd have 2 Hakbal, the Surging Souls, on the field. And guess what? If you do, you can do his effect twice to every creature, including himself. And congratulations, he is a Merfolk because you copied him completely, which is stupid. Speaking of copying, we can do it again with Spark Double. He does the exact same thing. He ignores the legendary rule. Not to mention, he also puts a +1/+1 onto himself. So let's say he copies Hakbal. Congratulations, this is Hakbal with a +1/+1 counter already on top of him, which is insanely good. Next, we have Danny Pink. This card's amazing. This is a 4/3 Doctor Who card, and this card is absolutely amazing. So it has the Mentor ability, which kind of sucks, which is that whenever a creature attacks, you put a 1/1 counter on the targeted creature with the less attack. However, what's good about this card, besides being a 4/3 generic blue, is that creatures you control that have whatever 1 or more counters to put on a creature, for the first time you draw a card. So anytime you would explore, instead of pitching that card to the graveyard, you're drawing a card, which is amazing. It helps you filter out your deck, helps you dig through it even more. Really great card. Next, we have Wandering Throve, which is another great card. This card's stupid. Not only does it have 2 ward, so it takes 3 removal spells to get rid of him, but it's a 4/4 roaming creature on the battlefield, becomes a creature you choose, so he'll become a Merfolk, which is insane. And then the Roaming Throne, if it's a chosen edition, gains its effect. If a trigger ability of a creature you control of the chosen type triggers, trigger it again. So it doubles your triggers for all your merfolks while being a 4/4 ward monster with 2+ counters. Stupid! This card is stupid in your deck, and it's absolutely insane. So that is it for our 4-cost creatures. On top of the 5-cost creatures, this is Miss Dancer. That is a card I considered cutting, but it's so good I kept it in. And it is a flying merfolk, 3/3. It requires 4 colors energy and a water energy. However, our merfolk control get +1/+0 and have flying. That's right. While he is on the field, all your merfolks gain the flying aspect, which is insane. If you remember Wonder, it does the same thing, but he's a body, which is incredible. He also has the Encore ability. By resting 7 energy regarding 2 waters, you may exile this card from your graveyard. For each opponent, they create a token copy that attacks that target this turn. If able, they gain haste. And then sacrifice them in the beginning of the end step. So what does that even mean? So basically, if this card's in your graveyard, you could banish it, pay 7 energy, it needs 2 waters for sure. And if you do, each opponent creates a token copy of a creature, and then that creature attacks them, which is kind of crazy, kind of goofy. I've never pulled that off, but we're really just using them to make all your merfolk flying, but it's still a great card. Another 5-cost character we play is Fiend the Liege. I don't know how to pronounce this guy. I'm sorry. He's a 4/4. He requires 5 energy, so 2 colors plus either a 3 grass or 3 water. See how it's split, just like how Cold Night Silky was? It means you can play either 3 water, 2 water, 1 water. As long as you fill the condition for this guy, you can play him out for free. It's a 4/4. Other green creatures you control get +1/+1. Other blue creatures you control get +1/+1. At the end of your turn, all blue creatures and green creatures that were tapped this turn untapped during the end phase, which is insane. So this card, while on field, will untap all your creatures every battle phase. So, okay, you blocked one opponent, congratulations, they all restand. You block another opponent, congratulations, they all restand. You block another opponent, congratulations, they restand. It's your turn again, you attack with all your creatures, cool. At the end phase, they'll all restand. This is a stupid monster for the deck, and the only way it would be better if it was a merfolk itself. And finally, for the last monster we are playing a summon monster, that being Summon Leviathan. This card is cracked out of its mind. Stupid. Summon Leviathan requires 6 energy. So this is our highest cost creature. However, it's a board wipe. It requires 4 colors plus 2 waters, and it has abilities based on what saga it is. So if you don't know, sagas are basically things that happen per turn. So this will be like a big national disaster if you do it, but it's so good, it's so amazing that you have to play it. So first things first, when this card enters the battlefield, Saga 1 activates. Return each creature that isn't a Kraken, Leviathan, Merfolk, or Octopus, or Sea Serpent to their owner's hand. You're the only deck that's playing Merfolk or Sea Serpent or anything? Congratulations, you're balancing all other creatures back to your hand. And he's also a 6/6, by the way, so he's just gigantic. Then, for the next 2 turns while he is on field, if a creature that is Merfolk, Octopus, Leviathan, or Kraken attacks, draw a card. And then at the 3rd ward, at the 3rd turn, he dies. He goes to the graveyard. But who cares? Because for 3 whole turns, you just wipe the field, and every character who attacks draws you a card. Absolutely stupid, absolutely amazing, and one of the best cards in the deck. That is it for the monsters. I believe that is 40. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 38, 39, 40. Yep, exactly 40 monsters in this 100 card deck. Holy shit. Let's talk about anything that is not a creature spell. Let's go into it. Hello, we're going to continue on with this video. We just finished all the monsters. Now to talk about everything else in the deck, let's talk about the spell cards. So, If you don't know, everything in the Magic is technically a spell card besides lands. So let's talk about the non-creature spell cards. So let's go into this. So first things first, we got our removal spells or instants. Instants are like your quick plays that you want to activate on your opponent's turn to disrupt your opponent. So first things first, we have Rapid Hydration and Polygiphy. Both cards do the exact same thing, so I'm just going to talk about them both together. Rapid Hydration and Polygiphy are both 1-cost blue energy creatures. Not creatures, spell cards that say, hey, at instant speed, so on your opponent's turn, if you pay the cost, destroy the target creature regardless of how big it is. And if you do, it cannot be regenerated. Also, its controller creates a 3/3 token monster. So this one creates a frog lizard, this one creates a green ape. Doesn't matter. You're going to give your opponent a frog lizard. It's a 3/3 vanilla token that does absolutely nothing. So you can literally, for 1 energy, blow up any monster in the game, which feels really, really good. But sometimes monsters can't be blown up. Remember, wards? Wards are cards that protect your creatures. If a creature has a ward, you can't get rid of it. Well, how about if you just bounced it back to hand? Well, that's what Snap's for. Snap is an amazing card. It requires 1 more energy, so a colorless and a water, but it's an instant speed spell that says return a target creature your opponent controls back to hand, then it untaps 2 of your lands, which is absolutely stupid and really strong. So you can have your land set, have 2 energy open, bounce back a creature, reopen your 2 lands, then play another instant speed spell if you have the mana for it, or a character that has an instant speed, which is really, really strong. A great card for the deck, and this really fantastic. Speaking about removal, our final removal spell that we are playing that is not a board wipe is Echoing Truth. This is another bounce card. It's actually better than Snap in some ways. It requires a water and a colorless. Return a target creature, non-land permanent, or all other permanents with the same name of that permanent to its owner's hand. So you're probably wondering, why is this better than Snap? Well, Snap, yes, it does restand 2 lands. This bounces all creatures with the name that monster shares. So this is good at getting rid of token spanning decks. If you're going against a deck that's like spanning a whole bunch of tokens, for example, goblins, and they're like spanning like 10 tokens a turn, you can activate its effect, bounce back all tokens of the same name back into their hand, and now they're gone. You don't have to worry about them. Another really great card, reason why this card's amazing, let's say they're playing my deck. You have plenty of creatures that copy other creatures. Congratulations. Bounce all copies of that creature back to deck, including the copies as well. Really great card. Amazing for the deck. So that's our removal. We're only playing 4. You don't want to be bogged down by it. Really good stuff. What happens if you just want to negate your opponent's life? Well, that's what Counterspell is for, and that's also what Mana Drain is for. So these are 2 water energies, both cost the same, and they say counter target a spell card. So if your opponent summons a monster, negate it. Your opponent activates a spell, negate it. Really, really powerful card, and also has the ability, for this one in particular, Mana Drain, that if you do negate a card, at the beginning of the next main phase, add an amount of, I don't know, I think mana equal to the spell mana value. So let's say you negate a 3 cost. Congratulations, you got 3 energy now. Really amazing card, really stupid card, and overall just another fantastic card for the deck. Great addition. But now you need to protect yourself from board breakers. Negating everything is good and all, but you need to protect your entire field. How are you going to do that? Well, that's what Ripples of Potential is for. And this card is a game changer for me. It's not a game-changing card. I should actually be careful with how I use that terminology, because people who might be watching this be like, oh, that's a game changer. You're not supposed to be playing that if it's a tier 2 deck. This is not a game-changing card. This one might be. I had to double-check this one. But this for sure is not. So what does Rippling of Potential do? So Rippling of Potential is a protection card that's an instant speed, so you got to be on your opponent's turn. Proliferate all creatures you control that are permanents that have counters on them. So what does that mean? So this card says, hey, if your opponent activates a board wipe that's going to wipe out the entire field, congratulations. If those cards have counters on them, bounce them to the end phase. There's like make them disappear until the end phase, and they'll all come back with all their counters still on them, and they'll escape the board wipe, which is really, really powerful and really, really strong. I actually won a game today as of recording this video because my opponent went for a board wipe. I saved 2 of my creatures. He wiped his own creatures, and I won the game because he had nothing, and I had 2 creatures to kill him, which was just really, really strong. And then finally, we also have Inspiration Call. This is another really amazing card. You draw cards equal to the number of cards you control with 1/1 counters. So every time you explore, that's a card that can draw you a card off this. So this is just a draw spell. But not only is it a draw spell, it's also a protection spell. So all monsters that have this become indestructible. So for every card you draw off Inspiration Call, they become indestructible until the end of the turn. So your opponent activates a board wipe, activate this card, draw a whole bunch of cards based on how many monsters you have fielded with counters, and protect them all. Really, really insane card, and really just a fantastic card for deck. And then finally, for our last sorcerer, oh, we have 2 more sorceries. My apologies. I forgot. Oh, no, these are sorceries. These are instants. My apologies. These are our last instant card. That being Proliferation Jest. This card is a really funny card. I'm actually having a great time with it. It actually won me a game, which is funny enough. It requires 2 water and a colorless. It's an instant speed spell. It's the highest one we're playing. So is Inspiring Call. It's a 3 cost. Until the end of the turn, creatures of a targeted player become frog tokens. So basically, this could be an offensive or defensive spell that says, hey, your opponent's attacking me with all their big guys and they're going to go win the game. No, they're not. Turn them all into frog tokens. Now they're all 1/1 tokens heading into your board that will die because you'll just block and all their creatures will die. So what does that mean? Let me give you an example. So remember how, let's say I'm going against another Hakbal player, right? Hakbal is coming at me with fire and fury, but I have a lovely, lovely merfolk creature on field. Well, he declares his attack. This is in battle phase. I can activate Providing Jest. Congratulations, this is now a frog monster. A 1/1 frog that will still swing, not redeclaring its attack, into my merfolk, and it will die horribly, winning me the game, which is really, really stupid. Another reason why this card's stupid is that not only can this be working defensively against an offensive person, but it can also be an offensive card. Let's say your opponent has a huge defending wall of monsters, and you need to just hit him one more time to win the game. Well, how about this? You give him an ultimatum. Okay, they're all really strong monsters, but now they're all frogs. You're going to have to sacrifice all your frogs in order not to die this turn, which is really, really powerful. And it's a really great card to just shift the game of a duel, which is really strong. So that is it for our sorcery cards. Now let's talk about our lovely, lovely sorcery. Oh, these are instants. I keep being a mix. These are our instant spells. Now let's talk about our sorceries, which are an inner spell. So these are spells you can only activate on your turn. This one's really, really cool. This is a new addition. This is Equity Will. So it's another sorcery card. It says you draw 1, which is really cool. But also, you're going to put a flood counter on a targeted land. That land becomes an island. And as long as that card has an island counter on it, you are now, and you control a merfolk monster, you get to draw a card. So what does this card do? Well, it's actually a really good disruption card. So if you control a merfolk and you activate Perfilian Will, or Alterous Will, you turn one of their lands into a useless island. So let's say that land had an effect. Well, it doesn't have an effect anymore. Now it's just a blue island card, which is pretty nice. Another good thing about that card is that it is now floodgating them in a way because they can no longer use that land if they're not a blue leader because it's a blue island. And all your creatures, if you haven't noticed, have island walk, so they can't be blocked now. Also, you get to draw a card if you control a merfolk. Really great card, really great addition to the deck. Speaking of, we also have Explore. This is a card that came in the structure deck. It's amazing. You may play an additional land this turn, then draw a card. Requires a colorless and a grass energy. Really great card. Grass is really the grass or green typing. It's just really good at like land escalating. Like it's really good at just expanding lands, which is really good. And overall, it's just a great color. We also have 3 visits. This is another 2 mana energy card. It's a sorcery. It says search your library for a forest card, put that card into the battlefield, and shuffle your deck. And this accelerates your energy. So on turn 2, you can activate 3 visits, rest 2 energy that you control, place a 3rd energy down, so then the next turn you already have Hakbal, a turn early, which is really, really strong. We're also playing Commoner's Reach, which is a 3 energy card, sorcery, that says, hey, you may rest 2 colorless in the grass, search your library for up to 2 basic lands, reveal them, put 1 onto the field, put the other 1 onto your hand, rested. So this is cheats out 2 energies from the deck, helps you accelerate even further, just a really great card. And finally, we have another sorcery in the form of Overwhelming Stampede. This is a win condition. This card's amazing. So this is a sorcery, requires 5 energy to do, 2 grass and 3 energy. And it basically says, hey, until the end of the turn, creatures you control gain trample to the game piercing. Also, they get XX counters, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. Well, let's say we control an 8 cost octopus. Congratulations, all monsters on the field gain piercing damage and plus 8/8 in attack. That is stupid. That is amazing, and that is just one of the best cards in the game. To help you win games out of nowhere, piercing damage is a bitch, and it's just a really powerful card. Next, we have Wave Goodbye. You wave at your opponent, and they go goodbye. So return each creature without a 1/1/1 counter onto its owner's hand. This is actually a really solid card. If your opponent does not play a deck that puts a lot of counters on their creatures, you can just bounce their entire field back to hand, which is really strong. However, against decks that have counters on them, it's less strong. So this card, if you can find a better board wipe, do it. But for 4 energy, it's not bad. Speaking of board wipes, for our final sorcery, we have the better board wipe in Raise in Palisade. This card requires 5 energy, 4 colors, and a water. And it says, hey, choose a creature type. Return all creatures that aren't the chosen type to the owner's hand. You call Merfolk. Congratulations. All your Merfolk stay on field. Everything else, bounce back to hand, baby. So unless you're going to get some mirror match, this board wipes your opponent completely and wipes them out of the game, which is really, really strong. That is it for our sorceries. Now let's talk about our enchantments, which we're actually playing a couple. So first things first, we have Exploration. Exploration is a great card. It allows you to play up an additional land this turn for just 1 grass energy. So every turn you can play 2 lands instead of 1, so it breaks the rules. We also have Hardening Scale. This is another grass energy card that says, hey, congratulations. Whenever a creature puts a 1/1 counter on them, put another 1/1 counter on them. So it doubles your counters. Another great card for that. And next we have Crest for Renewal. This card is actually a sleeper good card. It requires a colorless and a grass. And this card says, hey, it sits on the field. Whenever one of your creatures becomes tapped for any reason, you put a quest counter on this card. If there's 4 quest counters on this card, congratulations. Those monsters can restand. All monsters you control can untap during the end phase of each player's turn. So remember that boss monster we saw, the big 5 power guy, the giant monster. I was like, oh, all monsters you control just gain that effect, and it is all restand during the end phase. This is this guy as a spell card, which is insane and is really, really good. And overall, it's just another fantastic card for the deck. Speaking of fantastic cards, we also have Deep Roots Pilgrimage. This is another 2-cost card. It's called Enchantment. It requires a colorless and a water. Whenever 1 or more Merfolk non-token Merfolk you control become tapped, so at any time a Merfolk becomes defense, create a 1/1 Merfolk creature token with Hexproof, which is really, really good. Hexproof is just a really powerful effect. It protects your creatures from spells. These are your Merfolk creatures with Hexproof. And guess what? Because it's a Merfolk and your leader makes all Merfolks do an exploration, it's another monster you can explore, which is really, really good. So if you just summon 4 monsters, you summon 4 tokens, you're exploring 8 times a turn. This gets a problem out of hand really quickly. Next, we have Deep Root Water. This is another great card for the deck. It's in 3-cost energy, which requires 2 colors and a water. Whenever you cast a Merfolk spell, so anytime you play a Merfolk creature, create a 1/1 blue Merfolk creature token with a hexproof. So it generates more tokens for you anytime you play a Merfolk from the hand onto the field, which is insane. And those tokens, again, are Merfolk, so your leader can then do expirations on them, making your field absolutely stupid. Sorry about that. It's hard to talk so long. Next, we have Branching Evolution for our final enchantment. This card is amazing. Basically, it says, if one or more +1/+1 counters will be put onto a creature you control, up to twice that many are put onto that creature instead. So instead of putting 1/1 on every creature every time you explore, you put 2/2 on every creature you explore. Really great card. And next, we're talking about 3 cards that probably should be hit. Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, and Semi-Signet. These are our only artifacts we're playing in the deck, and all 3 of them are busted. So what do they do? For Soul Ring, for 1 energy, makes it so that you have 2 energy every turn. Really, really stupid. Means on turn 2, you can have 4 energy as long as you play 2 lands. Really, really stupid. Same thing for Arcane Signet. For 2 energy, you may add 1 mana of any color into the commander's color identity. So basically another free land for free. And then finally, Segment Signet, which is another great card, which means, hey, you can rest this card and you create either a grass and or water energy. So another great card for the deck. Overall, these 3 are really stupid, and they just help you generate more mana in the early game to win games. So that is it for our sorceries, our instants, and our artifacts. Now it's time to talk about the main meat and potatoes, lands. So let's get straight into this one. And we're already going to start off weird because our first land can also be a creature. So let's talk about it. So this is Glassproof Shore. It is a energy that comes in, it's a land that comes in tap. However, it only provides 1 water energy. However, if you choose you want to, you can actually play this as a creature. So this card can either be a creature or a land card, which is kind of insane. And now you're probably wondering, what the hell does the creature do? Well, this is a 2/3 creature. It's a Shapeshifter Rogue. So this card, with 0 attack and 0 defense, may enter the battlefield and copy a creature you control, except Shapeshifter Rogue, and it becomes that type. So it just shapeshifts and copies a creature you control. So you can either, in the early game, play it as a land, or you can keep it in your hand and make it a monster and just play it as another monster card that copies anything you want, which is absolutely stupid because you can copy anything, which is kind of stupid. Because think about it, you can just copy, I don't know, a shapeshifter, and now you're shapeshifting. Or you copy a creature that adds like double counter, and now you have 2 of them doubling counter. And then you just go on to the moon, and you just win the game. So it's really stupid. Next, let's talk about the actual islands we're playing. So this is just a water energy, but we're also playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 basic water lands. These are just basic islands that we are playing. We're totally playing 12 islands that are blue energy by itself, which is really, really good. We're also playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 basic forest lands. Now you're probably wondering, why are we playing so many water lands and not enough grasslands? Well, don't worry. We are also playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lands that could be either water or grasslands, which are insane. So let's actually talk about the non-vanilla lands, which are these cards. So first things first, we have Temple of Mystery. Temple enters the battlefield tapped, and then when it enters the battlefield, you may scry 1. This could be either a grass energy or a water energy. We also have Hairlands Harbor. This is another energy that enters the battlefield tapped unless you already control a forest or island. And then also it provides a grass and a water energy. We also have Cynic Growth Chamber. This enters the battlefield tapped. However, if you enter the battlefield Return a land you control to its owner's hand. The reason why you do that is because it bounces another land back to hand. This provides one grass and a water energy. So you bounce back a land to get 2 land, which is not bad, which is really, really solid. We're also playing one Deep Root Cardinal. This is a water or grass. Deep Root Cardinal enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or more of the other lands. So you control a grass or a water. Congratulations, you will have this for free, which is really, really good. We're also playing Vilgamir's Snarl. It's another land that comes in tapped. However, actually no, if Vilgamir's Snarl enters the battlefield, you may reveal a forest or island from your hand. It doesn't come in tapped. If you don't, it comes in tapped. We're also playing Willow Rush Verge, which is just an energy that provides anything. It's either a water or a grass. Activate only if you control a forest or an island. So you can only activate this land if you control a forest or an island, which is pretty nice. We also have Breeding Pool. You must pay 2 life. And if you don't, it enters the battlefield tapped. However, it provides a grass and a water. And finally, we also have Rejuvenating Springs, which enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or more of the option, a grass or a water energy. Overall, great cards for the deck, and they're just absolutely amazing. Now let's talk about the basic lands for the deck. So these are the basic lands. These are the multicolor lands. Now let's talk about the lands that have no color. So we have Karin's Bastion. This adds any energy. Also, if you may rest 4 energy plus itself, you can proliferate. You also have Requiem Tower, which says, hey, you have no maximum hand size. You also have Path of Ancestry, which is this card enters the battlefield tapped. However, it provides 1 mana of any color that is your commander. So you provide a water or grass. So technically, this also belongs here in the multicolor ones. So that's also pretty awesome. We also have Secluded Courtyard, which says, hey, Secluded Courtyard enters the battlefield. Choose a creature type. And then it says, hey, you may add 1 mana of any color of the type you chose. So there you go. It's also another multicolor. So technically, you actually have more multicolor cards. We also, of course, have Unclaimed Territory that enters the battlefield of the Crows and Cheater type. And then add 1 mana of any color of the spent type. So it's just another great card. And then we finally have Command Tower, which says, hey, add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. So this is another multicolored card. And then finally, we also have Alchemist's Refuge, which says, hey, you may rest a grass, a water in itself. You may cast spells this turn as though they add flash. And then finally, we also have Carnival of Souls, which is another land that enters the battlefield. You choose a type, and you add 1 mana of any color to the spent type, which is pretty awesome. Also, creatures you cast with this energy cannot be countered, which is kind of stupid. So that is it for this deck profile. I hope you all enjoy. Sorry I sound like tired throughout this. This is like an hour of me just talking straight to a wall. Hope you all enjoy. Like and subscribe to the next one, and bye.